Welcome back, everyone. Today, I want to ask you a hard question. Are you the hero of your practice, or are you the bottleneck? I've been reading a book called Who Not How by Benjamin Hardy, and it changed the way I look at my business. Today, I'm going to show you why the most expensive thing that you can do is try to save money by doing your own marketing. So let's get into it. Excited to have you guys here. My name is Mark Thackeray, host of the Dental Marketing Secrets podcast. This is episode 121, the Who Not How practice, the martyr trap, why doing your own marketing is costing you a fortune. So here's kind of a follow-up question to that. First one that I posed is, are you a business owner who happens to be a dentist, or are you just a dentist who accidentally created a second full-time job as a marketing coordinator? And I ask that because of this is what happens with a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners. And this is, speaks to the fact that they are entrepreneurial minded, meaning that they see a lot of opportunity. They know that they have a lot of capability. And so when a problem presents itself, they tend to ask, how do I do this? And that can be good in a lot of areas, right? I mean, that's typically how you grow. It's how you become self-sufficient. It builds confidence because you know that you can figure this out. And that's great. That can take you super far. And that's how I did it early on in my business. I started a photography business right out of college. And that's by necessity kind of how you have to start, because you don't always have the means, the capital to hire other resources to do some of those jobs for you. So I remember when I was doing this photography company that I had, and it started to progress, started to do quite well. And I remember doing the books, which weren't difficult, but I remember doing the taxes. And although it was a pretty straightforward business, it was such a time suck. More than a time suck, it was an energy. It just sapped my energy. I just absolutely hated doing it, but I still was stuck in this mindset of, how do I do this? Because I thought, well, if I can do it, I'm going to save some money, right? And that's the way that we tend to look at a lot of these things. And I still remember when I finally made the decision to just hire a CPA to do this. It was I was like, are you for real? I just had spent so much time to save, quote unquote, a couple $100. And the CPA actually saved me lots of money too. So I was so upset with myself for not doing this earlier, just because of the amount of energy it took away from me and how I dreaded that. I just dreaded that time, the early of the year, beginning of the year, because it would just weigh on me. Like, oh, I know I got to get these taxes done. I got to get these down. And I still don't love tax season for many reasons, but it's gotten so much better because I've elevated my mindset and to look at, well, who can do this for me instead of how can I do this? And that's really what a lot of dentists face is they see, okay, well, they learn about different ways to generate new patients or to attract a specific type of patient. And they say, well, how can I run Google ads? How do I fix my SEO? And they learn a few things and they think, okay, that's pretty straightforward. And oftentimes it is. I mean, there's a lot of things in this life that are just like that. But it doesn't mean that you should do them, right? The truly successful entrepreneurs value their time probably more than anything else, and recognize that they can go so much farther with the right people in place than trying to do it alone. There's a great African proverb that said, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And I love that because it speaks to, I think, the magnitude of the goals that we can have, right? We can go fast by doing it alone, but we can truly make and achieve and realize fantastic goals when we go together. because now we're employing and really getting people to buy into the vision that we have. And it allows us to do so much more. And this is kind of cool because it talks a little bit about what I talked with George White a few episodes about on the return on relationship. And specifically with George's conversation, it was around vendors and how do we approach our vendor partners? How can we involve them in achieving our goals? And that is definitely a part of this who, not how concept. But I was first introduced to this concept by a book. So Dr. Benjamin Hardy, along with Dan Sullivan, they co-authored this book based on Dan. So Dan Sullivan's a business coach, entrepreneur coach, and he's been doing this for a long time. He is fantastic. I love the way he breaks things down, keeps it simple so that you can move forward with it, but also it allows you to communicate that effectively to your team. And as a result, enlist all these other team members to your cause, which is so cool. So I was first introduced to this concept, and it really hit me because I had just, and I'd seen it so many times in my life crop up where I had that, how can I do this mentality? And that's, again, I think that's a trait of many entrepreneurs, is that they see opportunity everywhere. They can see that, oh, that's not as hard as it looks. I could do that, and it's good in a lot of ways, but it does become a hindrance when you let that overtake you, when that's your dominant thinking at all times. So I remember reading this book and having that aha moment, and of just how much more you can accomplish when you're thinking about it in terms of who is the right fit for this, who can help me that's already solved that problem, that can do it way better than I probably ever could, and can allow me to do this even more quickly. And it really drove it home too because you hear a concept, makes sense, you start to implement it, but inevitably you revert back to your old way of thinking at times. It's a constant process. It's a constant process of learning and relearning until it becomes habitual. And I remember we were at night, and I think I just showered, we had a long day or something. I worked out late and then showered, went to bed. And, as I was falling asleep, I could still hear water dripping from the shower head in the bathroom. And I was listening. I thought, oh, it's going to turn off. Sometimes it takes a minute to turn off. Minutes go by, still dripping. I wait 20 minutes. It's still coming out. It's not, I do fiddle with it. I turn it back on full bath, and then I shut it off. Same thing. So I fall back into this mindset of how do I fix this? I go to YouTube, I go to Google, do some searches, try some things. About an hour and a half into this, I'm like, I think I know what to do, but I'm scared I'm going to break something and make it even bigger beyond me repair. And so I finally concede defeat and say, this is dumb. Why am I doing this? So I turn off the water and eventually call a plumber the next day. He comes out, and oddly enough, he tells me I was going to do it right. I tell him, well, this is what I think. Here's what I would have done. He's like, yep, that's all you need to do, and then he did it. And it took him 5 minutes, honestly. Here I spent an hour and a half wondering, researching, hoping that was the right thing. And it just reinforced this point of who is the better fit for this instead of how. And it's a hard thing to grasp, right? I mean, it's a hard thing to fully embrace, but it's so much more powerful. And this is where, many dentists try to do their own marketing because they don't want to pay the agency fee, for example. They think, well, I don't want to spend money on just these management fees. And I can do some of this stuff. Like I can post on social media, and I can boost a post or even run a formal ad campaign on Meta. But the thing is they forfeit what they do the very best, which is production, which is clinical, just chairside production. Let's say if your chairside production is $500 an hour, but you spend 4 hours a week messing around with Facebook ads, that free marketing just costs you $2,000 in lost production. You can't grow $1 million practice with a $100 an hour mindset. That is so key to remember. You cannot grow $1 million practice with a $100 an hour mindset. That is a big turning point. Once you can realize, well, what is my effective hourly rate? Then you can think, okay, well, that can become a filter for you where you say, is this task a $500 an hour task or more? Is it worth that much? If it's not, it should be delegated if that's your effective hourly rate. Okay. Anything less than that should be delegated. And that's really helped me create that type of filter to make those decisions much, much easier. And one thing I will say about this too is that we get caught up in this busyness mindset, thinking or equating busyness with productivity. Oh, I'm busy. And I used to say that all the time. How's work going? Oh, it's busy. Thinking that that's a good thing. You automatically assume that, oh, he's busy making money. It's doing well. And that's not always the case. That's not always the case. You could be very busy and not very productive. So think about it that way. Try and catch yourself when you are using those words even. Oh, yeah, it's really busy. Like, well, do I want it to be, is busy good? It's neutral really, but in my mind, I don't want it to be busy in the classical sense, the traditional sense, where I'm just running around like a chicken with my head cut off. No, I want to be effective. And so if you can think about every hour spent on a how issue, how do I do this, is an hour stolen from your who leadership. Who can do this for me? It's taking away from your ability to enlist more people to your cause. So this really comes from what Dan Sullivan calls your unique ability. And your unique ability, he defines that as the intersection of what you love and what brings you the most value. So when what you love intersects, comes in contact with those things that bring you the most value, that intersection is your unique ability. So that's your gift, essentially. So that's what you want to be focusing your efforts on. Okay. And that's where this who mentality, you can find other who's that are focused on their unique ability. And if you have a team of people that are all focused on their own special skills, those things that they are truly gifted at and they love doing, that's a powerful combination, right? I think it was in the Jim Collins' Good to Great. Can't remember if it was that book, but he talks about just getting the right people on the bus. Doesn't matter where they're seated. As long as you have the right people on the bus, then you're going to go places, the right places. That is so true with this. If you can get people using their unique ability together, heaven help you. It's going to be amazing, right? So expertise comes from those people that are doing what they love and that are naturally good at, right? I mean, you have to love it in order to pursue it to the point where it becomes really good. You really become very proficient and an expert in that. So expertise is, it's kind of the unique ability. It's the shortcut. You can spend years learning the in and outs of how to do this, or you can spend one day finding the right who. It's up to you, right? But why reinvent the wheel when you can hire the person who built the wheel, right? Why would you go through all those steps to try and solve a problem that's already been solved by someone many, 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 many times before in different circumstances, different situations, that has all that data and understanding of what goes on? So the other part of all this that I wanted to bring up is the scarcity of time. As I mentioned before, entrepreneurs tend to value their time above anything else. So true success for an entrepreneur oftentimes means creating value while also buying back their time, buying back your time. So if you're thinking about it that way, and hopefully I can say this okay, but a who, in this case, if it's marketing related, let's say an agency, doesn't just give you leads. They give you your Friday afternoons back. They give you several hours each week so that you can recharge yourself or be with family or go work out or pursue a personal interest. If you're trying to do this all yourself, you're going to fall behind. That's the reality of the situation. There are so many things at play right now, especially when we're speaking of marketing, algorithms, artificial intelligence. It's changing so rapidly that keeping up with that is a full-time job. I mean, as an agency owner, have other who's for different things like that that spend the time to keep up on all the changes for SEO, for example. And I invest in them so that I don't have to spend the time, and my team doesn't necessarily have to spend that time acquiring all that data. I can rely on them to do that. And that allows me to make better, more informed decisions on how we proceed in the future. Your time is your most non-renewable resource. Stop spending it on tasks that an algorithm could do better. And here's another point too that's good to remember when you're thinking about all of this and trying to become a who, not how practice. When you hire a who, you aren't just hiring one person. You're hiring an entire department of experts who live this 40 plus hours generally a week. I had a group approach me because they wanted to hire me as their marketing director. And I said, look, you could go down that road. We could go down that road. And well, first I said, thank you, but no, thank you. I'm not interested, but let me consult with you for just a second. Let me give you some counsel. You could go down the road of hiring someone and try and find someone who fits that profile, has the experience, understands the different aspects of marketing, and hopefully find someone that can do that, because they just had someone, didn't work out, caused a lot of issues in the end. And you, again, it's there are some unicorns out there that can do all of that, but they're really few and they are extremely expensive, right? So you could go down that route, or you could hire, in this case, my team. You could hire my team, and you're going to get not just me, but several others as well. You're getting my whole team to become part of your organization, to help you in different areas, to multiply yourself, to accomplish so much more than you would an individual, and at a fraction of the price, right? I mean, if you went down and hired a full-time in-house marketing expert, it's going to cost you X. Or you can hire an agency for, honestly, depends on what you're trying to do, but sometimes half the price, and getting more out of that. Because then it allows you to scale too. In this case, this group was looking to scale. They only had, I think it was like 9 or 10 locations at the time, single digits, but now they've since grown, and we've been able to grow with them, for example. So it's allows for that flexibility, and it's easier to hire and make adjustments and make changes that way. So look at it that way as well, where you are you're trying to hire smart, the hire the right who. And oftentimes the who isn't just a single individual. It could be a team. And in many cases, that is a better option for you. So as you're developing this who, not how mindset, understand that real growth occurs when you stop being the operator and start being the visionary. This was made clear to me too when I first read, I believe it was, oh man, now I'm blanking on the book, but it was kind of a groundbreaking book back then. He talks about essentially creating a franchise out of your business as if you were, so that you would write out all the operations. You'd have everything written out in terms of, okay, this person, your responsibilities, this is how to do each responsibility, so that essentially you could plug in even inexperienced individuals and have them stick to the playbook, stick to the manual, and they would know everything they needed to do. And so that was his main point, is you can stop being the individual trying to do everything, carry out each individual task, and start being the visionary. And when you free up your time from the day-to-day tasks, it gives you those opportunities to think bigger, to allow those thoughts that you had or those ideas to truly germinate and form, and you can develop them. You can kind of mold and shape and shift those. Because it takes that. It takes, you can't, typically an idea doesn't come fully created. You have to work on that. And making those strategic changes to your practice require time and thought. But if you're stuck in the day-to-day, you're just not going to likely have the time or the energy. Because when you finally find some free time, maybe lying in bed, you're so spent that head hits the pillow and you're out. Right? So try to stop being the operator and become more of the visionary. Again, it's that whole mindset of who can I find for this to help me with this issue, rather than how can I accomplish that? How can I solve this problem? A good way to look at it is, and this happened to me a while back, going on vacation. Vacation can be such a great test. And I get it, with your practice, it's a little bit different, because if you're the main provider, you go out of town, you can't, the practice has to close essentially. So this is more for those that have multiple providers. But if you can go on vacation for 2 weeks, would your whole kind of business pause, or could you continue on without you? In my case, that was a great goal for me, is be like, okay, when I was first adopting this mindset, and I'm still working on it, to be totally frank, there's many things that I still fall back and revert back into, how can I do this instead of who can I find to do this? But this was a great test, and still is. When I go out of town, am I worried? Am I checking my emails and notifications every single day? Or can I confidently leave this in the hands of my team and say, I'm going to be gone. I trust you guys. Here's, we've talked about what needs to be done over the next few weeks. There will likely be something that comes up in addition to that. I know you guys will handle it well, and look forward to seeing you when I get back. If you can do that confidently, that is a great stress test to see, okay, I'm set up pretty well. We've got a good team in place. We've communicated our responsibilities. We know how to get things done, even if I'm not, at the helm of the ship. Okay. So it's a concept that takes some time, but it is such a liberating one when you can get behind it. When you can stop thinking of you pulling all the levers, doing all the, pushing all the buttons, flipping all the switches, but finding the right people to do that for you. And again, freeing you up so that you can think bigger, so that you can develop a more strategic plan for your practice. And by strategic, I mean, that could be adding an associate. It could be just cherry picking more of the right treatment, or being able to attract patients that require higher value treatment, for example. That all takes time and effort. But you're not going to have that if you're focused on how do I do this instead of who can do this for me. So don't let your ego and desire to save a few bucks be the bottleneck of your practice growth. So if you're tired of asking how to get more patients and you are ready to find the who that makes it happen for you, we would love to talk with you. Contact my assistant Maria for a session. Just love to just have an open, candid conversation of where you are now, where you'd like to be, and we could talk about what we've been doing that's working for our clients and how we can do that same thing for you. So contact Maria it's maria@markthackeray.com for a strategy session, and we'll get that scheduled. But more than anything else, I just want to see that, because I know and I say this just because a lot of dentists feel this way. They feel so worn down because of this mindset, of this how mindset, that it starts to make the profession less appealing. It loses its luster. They realize, this is such a grind. I'm having to do everything. I'm literally juggling 6 balls, trying to keep them all in the air at the same time. I'm up time for my family. My health is going downhill. It's so challenging. So this can be a great way to make some changes. And yes, you will be required to invest some money, typically. And that's okay. That's okay too. You're investing in yourself, and you're investing in your vision of becoming, of freeing up more of your time and becoming a true leader, a true entrepreneur. So I hope and by all means, grab the book. Go get the book, Who Not How, by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. They have a whole series that is fantastic that builds on these principles. Invest whatever it is, 15, 20 bucks, and really adopt this mindset. And then, let me know. I'd love to hear how it's going for you, because I'm on my own journey as well with it. So it's super fun. We can collaborate that way. But again, Who Not How. Thanks for joining me today. If you've had a good experience with this podcast, if you've gotten something that can help you or given you a spark or given you a lift of some sort, please leave me a review. That is huge. It's a big signal to Spotify and to Apple Podcasts and all the podcast like hubs around, that we're doing a good job. And it helps other dentists find relief, helps find ideas, helps them get them going and thinking a little bit differently. And that's the whole goal, is just to help you see that there's different approach to this, and it can elevate your overall thinking, and ultimately elevate your results and go farther. So with that, sign off. We'll see you guys next week. Have a great week.